We continue our Squadcast with Erica L. Ayala from Locked On Kraken on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, we're going to go right into it. So as I mentioned on the previous podcast, the whole Squadcast wound up being about an hour. So this is a two-part episode just to kind of make it bite-sized morsels. So you're going to get a two-parter on this one. And just a reminder, Goals Thursday will not be happening today. It'll turn into Goals Friday just because of scheduling, since, I have other stuff going on, which I will get to on a later podcast. But in the meantime, let's get right into it. Here is the rest of the Squadcast with Erica L. Ayala from Locked On Kraken. Enjoy it, folks.
It's good to see. I mean, that's something that, although you're representing the Anaheim Ducks on this particular Squadcast, I love that that's something that we can share, because what we also have talked about is that the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Kansas City Mavericks, the Seattle Kraken, it's looking done, as I sometimes say, no pun intended, because we don't have Vince Dunn at the time, sad faced here, but it's looking like the season's pretty much wrapped up for us, but there is promise when it comes to the younger guys, and we started to see that on display. Now that always comes with a give and take, and I actually got to talk with Disco Dan Bilesma and Jessica Campbell about that give and take, because it is an interesting situation. You have the Firebirds, they've been a core for the most part, and now at a time when they want to get prepared for their postseason, a few players like Wentz and Lomo are being asked, and Olofsson are being asked now to step in and steady the very unsteady ship that has been the Seattle Kraken. So it's not an easy thing to do as an independent team, but that's the thing. Everyone knows that they're not only the Coachella Valley Firebirds. They are both the Coachella Valley, or they're the Firebirds as well as the Kraken, and to some extent the Mavericks, because sometimes they'll have to feed in to what's happening there and to boon their own success. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Here's my positive of the whole thing is some of those guys are going to come back. Once the Kraken season ends, they're going to come back to Coachella Valley for what could be another long playoff run. I mean, Riker Evans, he was on the roster during the deadline, so Riker is eligible to come back. Lomo obviously is going to come back. I think Wentz will come back sooner. I think what's going to wind up happening is they're going to play less than 10 games, not burn off that that first year of ELC yet. They're not going to burn it off right away, because there's no point in doing it right now when you have a long playoff run incoming for the Firebirds. And Goose, that's an emergency basis. And by the way, I got to share this. I'm sure you've seen this, the little squad photo.
Oh, for sure.
Of all the Firebirds, all 6 of them. So they're Firebirds for life. I mean, they went through a lot last season.
Oh, for sure.
I'll just bring this up briefly because I like talking prospects too. I cannot wait for Jagger Firkus to come through the system. He excites me a lot. I actually talked with some Firebirds fans about this that were kind of like, why are they taking our guys? And I have to remind folks, so I'm going to remind a lot of the new fans, this happens this time of year. There's lots of player movement that happens. When the junior season ends, when the collegiate season ends, there's going to be guys moving up or down. The situation's not always going to be the same. Same with the Ducks, and I'm going to say this to all the Ducks fans too. A lot of player movement, a lot of guys moving up or down. Black Aces won't apply this season again, but Black Aces are going to be coming, and Jagger Firkus is the one name that I want to see in Coachella Valley. Come on, averaging 2 points a game. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, on an absolute tear. You love to see it. And yeah, I think the future is bright for sure. And again, that is something that we can share in. And I'm sure, especially because the off season will be long for the Ducks and the Kraken, that at least we can still enjoy our Squadcasts for as long as the Coachella Valley Firebirds are still playing, and maybe
At
get
least
some
the
Mavericks.
Firebirds are in it. Do you know what
Exactly.
place the Ducks are in right now? Do you know what place the Gulls are in right now, for that matter? You know, none of the affiliates for the Ducks are seeing playoff action again this year.
Oh man,
So,
that's
yeah.
brutal. That's brutal.
Well,
Luckily for
I'm going to
us, we
be
don't
done in
have
a
that.
month.
Yeah, we don't have that issue in the AHL. We don't have that issue in the ECHL. I did notice though in the AHL, Hershey Bears, if I'm not mistaken, were one of the first teams, if not the first team. I know. Oh, I know. But they're looking pretty lethal again. So wouldn't it be nice to get some revenge? There's obviously a lot that has to happen, but I'd be lying if I said I haven't been looking at the AHL standings and being like, "Oh yeah, good. Yeah, bring them to the top again. Let's see about that." But again, a lot has to happen, and no Joey McCord. So that's something I definitely want to talk to you about. What has the goaltending situation been with Coachella Valley? But we'll have to leave that for another Squadcast. We'll let the fans know we're definitely going to do that again, because we do have another Ducks versus Kraken game, JD,
I
that we
know.
want to preview. Anything quite too long didn't read, so to speak. My preview of this game is I genuinely believe anything could happen.
Maybe we'll get some official predictions after the second intermission. So we'll get to that on the other side. As a dog is barking in the background, let's hear from FanDuel. Erica, let's say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament, men and women. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a number one seed, I'm predicting an upset in women's, by the way. Just saying. It's time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You could even pick who's going to win it all. Not number two. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops till they cut down the nets. Erica, I will say that FanDuel is the official online sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And Erica, what should the fans do?
What should the fans do regarding this particular ad read? Of course, you want to head over to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's how you're going to be able to redeem that special that JD mentioned. Again, head to fanduel.com/lockedon. Also, don't look at the futures bets for either one of our teams or the playoff bets.
This one went a little bit out of control, but the last thing I was going to say was, and please gamble responsibly.
That also.
That's what I was going for there.
There we go. I misread the situation. But of course, do that. And I heard you say, for those listening on Amazon, you might have missed this with our ad-free episodes, but you mentioned that you're expecting an upset on the women's side. For those watching on YouTube, you can probably deduce that I am in a hotel room in the Albany region. So I'm curious, are you expecting the upset to come on the Albany region side? I think very plausible. Or the Portland side of the women's bracket?
I'm expecting a number 2 to go down, and that number 2 is from here in SoCal. And I'm just not convinced with UCLA. I'm not.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. They've been on the receiving end of some upsets, even in the regular season. I mean, that Oregon State UCLA game was... God. Okay, for those who maybe don't know, there were 4 lead changes, including the game winner, in the last 6.8 seconds of the game. Also, stick taps, claps to Oregon State social team. They have the last few seconds of that from a variety of angles set to Etta James at last, and it's
one of the stupidest endings I've ever seen. I mean, it was a great ending, but also one of the stupidest in that I cannot believe that freaking happened.
Yeah, it was wild. So okay, yeah, I'm with you. And
So yeah,
that would be,
that's one of my. I'm gonna go LSU over UCLA on that one. I also maybe the other 3-2 matchup in Albany. I think Oregon State has a legit shot against Notre Dame.
that could be interesting. Notre Dame, I think early in the season, I was kind of like, okay, how's this team gonna fare? They also played South Carolina very early, but Hannah Hidalgo is the truth.
Mhm.
Hannah Hidalgo is a really great player. I will give it to you though. Again, I'm not, if it's me, you talk about, gambling responsibly. For me, gambling responsibly is not betting against Oregon State, because per what we just talked about, I mean, come on. That was
We've
a wild
devolved.
switch.
We've gone into women's basketball talk, but I'll just give my final four just for the sake of having it out there in the universe. My final four is, of course, Iowa, South Carolina. No one's beating South Carolina right now. I mean, come on. USC, what up, Juju Watkins, and Stanford.
Ooh, okay. I think Texas might pull out. I honestly, and it sounds quote unquote boring, but Texas is kind of like low key under the radar, even as a 1 seed. And I kind of think that they're going to be like, and we took exception to that. So I'm curious.
Stanford's getting overlooked. Stanford's getting overlooked so bad.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be interesting. They had to pull out and they had to gut out a win with Brink on the bench the last game at Maples. So for this season, I should say, and in Pac-12 officially. So anyway,
I'm so sad about that. We have to move on.
Yeah. We have to see if Locked On Women's Basketball will let us do a cameo every once in a while. But okay, let's talk about this matchup for
rest in peace, Pac-12.
Oh, I know, it was so sad.
Actually, I'll give a Pac-12 story, which will go back to hockey. This will make sense at the end of this quick story. So when I was up there, after you left, by the way, after you left Seattle, after KCI, I decided to go down to downtown for whatever reason. I did that, and after having my Ivar's salmon, which by the way, Salmon House delicious, that was also the night that University of Washington won their semifinal game to get into the championship game in college football. And I was kind of surprised, like, how crazed of a sports town Seattle became. Like, it was crazy for the Winter Classic.
Yeah.
And then you add in college football, and everyone was just going BS crazy. So when I went to Ivar's, they had the TVs on there. I'm the only one sitting at a table. Everyone else at the bar watching these games. And I still had like my Seattle, like my Winter Classic stuff. So they're like, oh, did you happen to go to the game? I'm like, yeah, I went to the game. Like, oh, so like, are you from here? Like, no, I'm from, and I actually dropped I'm from Southern California. I work out of Palm Springs, Palm Desert. They're like, oh, they have a team out there. Like, and it is like, yeah, I'm aware. And I let it dangle for a minute before I finally told them, what I do with the Firebirds. They're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, how you like Joey DeCord? I was like, I'll admit, I was one of the people in the stands starting the Joey chant. I was one of them. And that's how we're getting back to the Kraken, because did you notice the Joey chants were kind of coming back a little bit last night?
Oh, for sure. And rightfully so. I mean, we've kind of sprinkled this throughout the episode here, but Joey
See how I came back.
Yeah, Joey DeCord has been struggling. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. I think the Winter Classic was, really peak Joey. And then after that, I mentioned it earlier on the episode, after that, I think that I started wondering, okay, we're in a good space. If you can even believe it, the Seattle Kraken were on a win streak at that time. But it was like, okay, we know that Philip Grubauer is getting back healthy. When are we going to integrate him? Then it was, okay, Joey's been playing great for us, but we've been there, done that, aka Martin Jones, who we also shouted out earlier in the episode. When are we going to give him a break? And
who didn't get a shot? Who didn't get a real shot was Chris Drieger.
Yeah.
who, by the way, Driegs has looked really good in Coachella Valley as well.
I love that for him. I think we've talked about this on Locked on Kraken. I feel for Driegs, and I think it was the right move to bring Joey in. To your point, when Drieger was up with us while Grubauer was hurt, could he have been utilized more, a la, or to the effect that I'm saying, give Joey a little bit of rest? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably yes. And
I apologize to the Ducks fans because like we talked a lot about the Kraken, but if I may bring this back to the Ducks for a second, because this is something that Ducks fans have had to deal with for the better part of the last 4 seasons. The Ducks have another very capable goalie in their roster that I feel that they are not playing enough. I mean, give John Gibson a break. There was a run 2 seasons ago. Remember when the Ducks started off hot 2 years ago? They were in first place. They were in a playoff position New Year's Eve. They were in a playoff position prior to the All-Star break, and they were riding John Gibson to death during that stretch run. And even I was saying, like, okay, Gibby's doing great. That's good. But there's a backup goalie. There's a young goalie that is very capable and very good. And even on a recent mailbag episode, someone asked me, is Lukáš Dostal ready to be a number 1 goalie? I said, in a word, yes. Dostal's ready to be a number 1 goalie, except he, just like a certain run, Dostal gets no run support either. Good God. What is, like, I talk about giving goalies the effing taser. I mean, give Gibby a taser. Leave Dostal alone in a room with the rest of his teammates and let him go at it, because there is no run support for Gibby and especially Dostal this season. It is so ridiculous. So I see where you're coming from on that. You can relate. They really just played Joey like down to the bare bones recently. And I said, where's Grubauer? Where's Driegs?
Where's Driegs? Yeah, exactly. And again, that becomes a thing where, you know, what is the right recipe? I just feel like things overall, decision-making wise, have been just a scotch off from the Seattle Kraken, whether that's front office or, quite honestly, the coaching staff. I have no idea what the game plan is defensively speaking, but I yell into the void about that almost every day. So I have resigned that I am one of the few people who is very bothered by the Seattle Kraken defense, and I will have to wear that Scarlet A until other people actually notice that I'm right. Anyway, it's fine. I'm totally well adjusted. It's totally fine.
Yeah, we're fine. We're not
totally
we're
fine.
not panicking.
Totally normal behavior right now. So then, okay, let's talk about this. What do we think the goalie matchup is going to be? Now, these two teams are playing each other back to back, as in there's no opponent in between. But it's not a
throwback to 2021, baby.
But it's not a proper back to back. It's not a proper back-to-back because it's not, day, 2 games literally back-to-back. In this case, there was a day off in between. So from the Ducks' perspective, what do you think is going to happen? And is that the same as what you hope will happen?
I think they're going to get shut out again, honestly. I don't know if you noticed, but the Ducks only put up a baker's dozen worth of shots in this last game, which, by the way, I did notice that was a Kraken record for fewest shots allowed in a game.
Yeah.
And yet the Ducks still somehow got those shots off. They were playing the perimeter all night. They were making mistake after mistake after mistake. And Seattle just came out with a crap ton of energy in this one, especially from that fourth line. The Ducks power play mystifies me. I talked about it earlier. Why is that PP2 unit not out there more? It drives me crazy. Can I share with you what those lines for the power play were? Because this is actually the kind of thing that does legit drive me crazy. This was Trevor Zegras' first game back. I'm okay with Z playing the third line in his first game back only because you got to get him back to speed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. And then you get into the power play units, which drove me nuts. I'm going to go power play 1 first. You had Cam Fowler, who has been more than struggling recently. Jakob Silfverberg, who has been struggling all season long. And then you have Alex Killorn, who I've liked. Killorn's been a Jekyll and Hyde to me all season long, where he will make a stupid play and then make up for it with a goal, but that doesn't negate the fact that he still made some bad choices. And then you have Stroman, and then you have Stroman Vetrano. Vetrano's at least fine. But then you have this other power play unit of Erica, follow me on this because these are all the young kids. Mason McTavish, he's fun. Troy Terry, he's fun. Leo Carlson, he's fun. Trevor Zegras, we know he's fun. And Pavel Mintyukov. Do those all sound like young guys that tend to float on the ice and move faster and kind of get the defense discombobulated? Why would you not have that power play unit out for more than 20 seconds at a time? I think Coach Greg Crow needs to shift around his lines. He needs to throw crap on the wall and see what sticks at this point, because 13 shots, not going to cut it. Having that power play 1 unit out there, just slowing things down, not going to cut it. Having John Gibson out there wanting to kill his teammates out there, not going to happen. So I hope that it is Lukáš Dostal out on the ice tomorrow, and I think it will be. I think now that the Ducks are out of a playoff spot, they're just going to tandem for the last 10 games and go Lukáš next game.
Yeah, and that was kind of my take on what we'll likely see from the Seattle Kraken moving forward. I don't think that the win for Joey Daccord is going to change that. I am curious. I know you ran through the power play. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I think I know it was Beniers. I thought it was McCann on that power play while Lomo was out there.
I'm pretty sure it was.
I think so. I know at practice it was Larson, Bjorkstrand, Beniers, Lomo, and Tolvi. So, but again, it was late in the game. They might have mixed some things up. But I think what's also interesting.
They did. Sorry. That's what I was going to say. They did mix it up in the last power play because the Ducks were stupid and gave them so many just quick 10-second rant. Stop committing dumb penalties. Stop allowing the other team to get so many power plays. You're welcome, by the way. 2 for 5 on the power play. Anyway, they did mix it up towards the end.
They mixed it up. And I think that also speaks to the lines that we saw. Ellie Tolvanen and Maddie Beniers with Oliver Bjorkstrand. I mean, don't tempt me with a good time. I also love that the Triple J line, as I like to say, OGers who've listened to Locked on Kraken from the beginning, I was at that first ever training camp, and I like Jaden Schwartz, Jared McCann, and Jordan Eberle on a line together. I always have, I always will. And to see that Triple J line back together warmed my freaking heart. And then, of course, we had the kids. We talked about that. That left Berkey with Yanni Gord and Brandon Tanev. A lot of energy potential on that line, but I'm very curious to see how they continue to blend because it hasn't been a line that's been together. It hasn't been a trio that has been together a lot this season. When it comes to being in net, I kind of just feel like you want to get at both goalies feeling good, playing well in front of their teammates. I mean, what this roster is going to look like, I'm very curious to talk about that in the offseason. But so I'm leaning towards, even though Joey got that shutout, seeing Philip Grubauer in net.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Grubauer at this point. He had a pretty solid run earlier this month, which, by the way, also no run support. Grubauer deserves better.
Never, ever.
No, my prediction, I think the Ducks are going to crack through and get a goal.
All right.
But, God, that mixing and matching on the power play, that looked good. We'll have more with myself and Erica L. Ayala after this brief word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience underlined, is what brings home the winning trophy and is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's going to be 3-1 Kraken.
I was thinking the same. I'm going 3-1.
You know what? Just for that, just to be different, I will go 4-1.
All right, I'm going 4.
I'll go 4-1.
It's not a bobblehead night. Are you sure you want to go 4? Or you just want to skip 4
That's
overall
right.
and go to 5?
It's not a bobblehead night. I'll go the other way, 2-1.
Oh, okay, 2-1. I mean, that's very plausible. I think that's extremely plausible. It would, depending, I mean, you can have a solid 2-1 outing, but it would be very indicative that, again, the Seattle Kraken are having an issue on offense, in my opinion. So yeah, I think 4 sounds nice. I think 3 is more plausible. If we get to 2-1, I might just be ripping my hair out, but we'll see. I think, again, you talked about the Anaheim Ducks sometimes, playing to their opponent or maybe letting their opponent settle into their game. The Seattle Kraken have that same issue. And so I think if we focus too much on the good feels of the win the other night and don't face the Anaheim Ducks team that is going to hit the ice Thursday, that could be to our detriment because no one wants to lose to the same team 2 times in a row in the regular season. I mean, definitely not in the postseason, but neither one of our teams is in any position to talk about that at this moment.
At least your team isn't mathematically eliminated yet.
This is true. Hold fast.
There's still an outside shot here.
There is an outside shot for sure.
Give your team a little more credit.
I mean, listen, we've talked about that on Locked On Kraken. I know what the numbers are. And if we go based on how the team has played, put Tuesday's game, to bed, I can't guarantee we're going to win the game Thursday. I'm not doing that.
I'll guarantee it. I'm sorry, Ducks fans, but look, let's be real here.
Says have a little confidence in your team.
The Ducks are delusional. The Ducks are going to allow 4 power plays to the Seattle Kraken because the Ducks commit way too many dumb penalties. I've said it all year long. I mean, they might even have a too many men penalty because they almost lead the league in that. Oof. Almost. Oof. So,
those are brutal.
The reason I'm going to go 2-1 actually because Dostal, I think. Do I want to piss off some people right now? Yeah, why not? I think Dostal right now might be the better goalie.
Ooh.
At this moment.
That's interesting. I don't know if I have a read at this moment who the better goaltender is. I don't have a read on that. I think what I like about Grubauer and Decord is that I think they give you things differently, which is also, I'm very curious to see moving forward if the Seattle Kraken lean into being a little bit more situational and going by matchup. And I know Dave Haxtell doesn't believe momentum carries from game to game, but if anything, the Seattle Kraken team proved the opposite.
Kind of does.
It kind of does.
I think it'll be this guy. Yes, I have a Groovy mug.
Oh, I literally just missed out on those. What are they? A Stein?
They're a Stein. It's a beer Stein.
Yes, very cool. The German gentleman, yes, that's likely who we will see in net. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, for the drama of it, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, sure, give us a 1-goal game. For the sanity
can
of
the
Kraken.
Can I make a further?
I'll give you that.
Go ahead.
But for the sanity of the Kraken Nation, I want at least a 2-goal. 3-goal would be optimal cushion. So, all right.
I'm going to give a further prediction.
Further prediction.
I think Jordan Eberle gets a milestone.
That's right.
On this
He's
game.
been sitting on that. I love that. I love that
Yeah,
prediction.
I think 299 goals and like 399 assists.
Yeah, he's right there.
So he's right there.
Yeah.
I think he gets a milestone tomorrow.
I love it. I already told you. I like that Triple J line. I mean, I do like him with Beniers, but I like Tolvi and Beniers even better. So yeah, we'll see. Well, I think we thoroughly talked. We really ran the gamut here on this Squadcast, which I love.
Do we want to make this a two-parter or just put it all out in one fell swoop?
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think for Locked On Kraken fans, expect this to come out in 2 parts because I love, as I always do, I love what JD is able to give us from that Coachella Valley Firebirds perspective. So you'll hear sprinkles of us talking about the new kids, so to speak. But if you want that intensive, really getting into the nit and grit about the Coachella Valley Firebirds, then make sure you listen to Locked On Kraken, that you have your notifications set. If not already on YouTube, subscribe on your on your podcast audio only, listener, because we're going to have a dedicated edit of this Squadcast that's focused on Coachella Valley.
And by the way, to the Ducks fans, my apologies because this was about 65% Kraken talk. But do you know how depressing it is to talk about this Ducks team every day? When they're this, no, I say this jokingly because I still love it, but it gets hard when it's now been like 6 years without. And by the way, I'll pour one out to our homie Jared Ellis, who just left, who sent me a text saying like, you're one of the only OG hosts left on the network, and your team still hasn't made the playoffs.
Oh,
I didn't know how to take that.
Oh,
like,
it's like,
are you
for slamming the door?
Like, thanks, and also backhanded, like trying to be nice insult there. Like, yeah, you're an OG host, but your team sucks. Like, thanks.
It's like, is it me?
No, they were terrible before. They were terrible before I came on.
I mean, again, that goes to what is the overall strategy. I've talked about this a lot in the Pacific Division because we have teams that for the last handful of years prior to the Kraken coming in to the league have had a fair share of teams that could be lottery teams, and getting those high draft picks. It's not just enough to get the number 1 pick. You have to not only have a system that can develop that pick, you have to have a front office that's going to build around that pick. And then you have to have a coaching staff that is going to execute and utilize that pick or those picks to be successful on the ice. So that's a lot more than just that number 1 pick.
That was a viewer question that I got recently about the coaching staff and specifically about the assistant coaches. Newell Brown, who's been part of that coaching staff that has headed up the special teams, has done a less than stellar job in Anaheim. I don't think he's going to come back. And there's even some fans questioning whether Coach Greg Cronin is the right guy for the job, because we saw this with Coach Dallas Eakins, but the difference was Eakins had experience in the NHL before the Ducks and also didn't do well there. At least for Greg Cronin, this is his first ever NHL head coaching job.
Right.
And he did a great job with the Colorado Eagles, who took the Firebirds to the limit last year.
Yeah.
So, I still think the jury's out on that coach. I don't think he's going to get fired, but the assistants, I think, has got to be just swept aside. And by the way, what I find interesting is Coach Hackstall is the longest tenured coach in the Pacific Division at all of 3 years.
That's so wild.
Let me repeat that for everybody in the back. The coach for the Seattle Kraken, a third-year franchise, is the most tenured coach in the division. Where have you gone, Todd McClellan? Where have you gone?
That's wild. And all the more reason why the Seattle Kraken, I don't think we get rid of Dave after this season. And I think it's teetering as close as I've ever come to being like, that could be a viable option if things don't drastically change for next year. I have been wanting the Seattle Kraken to do more in the offseason since we had our first offseason. So again, I've said it before on this podcast. For me, I'm really looking to see what the front office is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a point, though, where Dave can get results from the roster that he's given. That's kind of the job. Sometimes it sucks. A lot of times, everyone's job has times where it kind of stinks, but you have to deal with the funk. And that is right now what's happening with the Seattle Kraken. So I'm very curious.
And the Ducks.
Yeah, exactly. I
Ducks.
loved what you said about assistant coaches, because Locked On Kraken fans know I've been talking about that again, specifically when it comes to defense. We saw an immediate change with goaltending, and I think that has helped, particularly with Philip Grubauer. You can't help that Gruby has gotten hurt a time or two. The goaltending coach can't help that the offense isn't scoring and that the defense just loves giving away breakaway chances and doesn't guard on the back door. But I'm fine. It's totally fine.
Totally fine.
I think
I've been harping the same thing about the Ducks special teams, and I've been harping about the fact the Ducks have been so injured this season. It's one thing, like, if your bottom six gets hurt, that's one thing. When everyone on your top six gets hurt, that's an entirely different thing. So I think there's got to be some benefit of the doubt. Like, this feels like a mulligan for Coach Cronin. He's done the best he can with the parts that he's had all season long. Hey, Trevor Zegras led the team in points last season. Need I remind you? Just saying. So imagine a full season.
Right. Sorry to cut you off there. I agree with you regarding the Ducks. And I think that the Seattle Kraken, I think the acceleration process to, is Dave on the hot seat, is a little bit further along, but I still give him the benefit of the doubt to get the team on the right foot come next season. But anyway, JD, we really got into it. I love it. That's why I love squad casting with you. Again, we'll have some AHL postseason where we can do that, and we'll see what at least the Kansas City Mavericks do. I might bend your ear about them, because I know you've seen some of their guys as well in Coachella Valley. But for the Locked On Kraken listeners, I'm pretty sure they know where to find you, or at least where they can hear your voice. But just let them know once again where they can find you on the interwebs.
I'm the voice of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and you could hear me at Acrisure Arena at every home game. If you don't want to do that, you can follow me online on X at StimpyJD, where I talk about sports and game shows sometimes, and quizzing, because I'm also a game show nut, at StimpyJD. And the show's X Twitter is at LO_Ducks. You can find me helping out with Defend the Nest, which covers the San Diego Gulls. Gulls Thursday will be coming up soon, because I got to talk about the AHL Gulls as well. They've been struggling. They're almost out of it, I know, but got to talk about that. And what else can they find me? YouTube, Locked On Anaheim Ducks, ad-free on Amazon, also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it's been a fun time. Oh God, got to give a shout out. Mikey, who's in-arena host for the LA Kings, he said, it is hard to stay positive about the Ducks, and you managed to try to do that.
Well done, sir. I love it.
All right, where can they find you?
We're getting back to it. Okay, so for Locked On Ducks listeners, again, my name is Erica L. Ayala. I'm your host of Locked On Kraken. You can also hear me / see me on Locked On NHL, where we do the women's hockey spotlight. So we've got Women's Worlds coming up. I did a deep dive into why Natalie Spooner, after having her first child, is maybe an even better player than she was when she helped Hockey Canada win gold in 2022. And so we'll have a lot of that happening over at Locked On NHL. So you can follow Locked On Kraken, Locked On NHL, wherever you find Locked On Ducks. YouTube, Amazon, ad-free, Sirius, SXM, all of the goodies. And then you can find me on the interwebs at Black Rosie Media. That is a platform that I've created to empower Black women and melanated creators in sports media. So yeah, again, hopefully we'll have a chance to hear from JD again, certainly on Locked On Kraken. And we'll see what happens as our two teams hit the ice once again Thursday night at Climate Pledge Arena.
And next week at Honda Center, by the way.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We have that because the Kraken end the season on the road. So yeah, we might have to Squadcast it up again. I mean, what's to say? One more hour, JD. Why not?
Why not? Give the fans what they really want.
Exactly. Always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
We
Thank
gotta
you.
we gotta wrap it up here. On behalf of Erica and myself for Locked On Kraken and Locked On Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the night. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together. Erica, finish it up.
Hold fast, stay true. Let's go Kraken. We'll catch you on the next Squadcast.
Yeah. And on the credits, I'll just say this. Stay fired up.